Hey guys, this is Mark Howard, author of the Griffin Legends fantasy novel series. Thanks for joining me here today. So some of you probably saw on social media a couple days ago that I have posted a new map. That's this right here, the Kingdom of Lortharein. Not Lotharein as we oopsie daisied in my first iteration, but that's okay. Even the oopsie daisies are fine, right? We caught the error, it's corrected now, and so, yeah, the Kingdom of Lortharein. This is our protagonist, Godfrey de Bastone's homeland in the Griffin Legends series. Right about there is where we're talking about, right? And you guys can look at this a little more closely on my social media posts if you want to really just pore over that right there. But I guess today I want to talk to you a little bit about maps and why this is something to get excited for here. So with most fantasy novels, at least most fantasy novels that I'm interested in, they take place in another world, right? In Lord of the Rings, we have Middle Earth. Game of Thrones, we have Westeros, and in my own fantasy writings, we have these various lands, right? We've got the Nord's lands, which consist of several different political entities here, right? Kingdom of Asgard, the Five Clans, the Blighted Lands, so on and so forth here, right? This map here is mostly the Kingdom of Lortharein, but we've got a couple other places, like there's a kingdom called Irmstad here, Gothia, I can't speak right now, Navagorn right here. It's like, I invented this, I should be able to say it. But yeah, we've got a few different kingdoms on this map, but mostly zoomed in on the Kingdom of Lortharein here. And I think why we as fantasy readers, why we get excited for these maps is because it does transport us to another world, right? Another place, another time. And I know when I look at fantasy maps, I sometimes tend to look at some of these places on here that are not strictly mentioned in a story, right? And I say, I wonder what's going on over there in that city, or over in this forest here. I wonder what is happening in some of these places that the story doesn't necessarily focus on. I know that was certainly the case for me with a lot of the various regions of Middle Earth, right? In in the Lord of the Rings series, we get a fair bit of the Shire and Rohan, Gondor, Isengard, right? Mirkwood Forest back in the Hobbit there. But there's plenty of question marks on that map, right? Plenty of room for imagination where we can wonder, oh, what's going on over here, right? So that's one thing we tend to like about fantasy maps. Another thing is if we have a fantasy map in the book that we're reading, it helps us keep track of where our characters are going, right? Oftentimes in fantasy books, they will travel around from place to place. They might talk about some other more far distant place where interesting things are happening. And so a map is a very useful tool to have in our fantasy books for a few different reasons there, like we talked about. Now, sad to say, I did not have my map of the Kingdom of Lortharein ready to go at the time I first published Godfrey's Crusade. And that is something I have wanted to correct for a really long time, but maps are not really my strongest suit. Truth be told, it's my brother Chris who really put in most of the hard work for making these maps for me, and so I owe a huge debt to my brother Chris for everything that he's done to help with all of these visual art things, right? He's done the maps for me. He's done a few other things like, let me pull these out of my bag here. Some of you may have seen on my little merchandise store, I've got these, let me pull them out. I've got these little heraldic stickers, right? These images of shields that have the coat of arms of some of our named characters here, right? So in this case, this is House Cretus, which is the house that Godfrey de Bastogne is a part of. And here it is, a sticker that you can slap on your car or a water bottle or something like that. And it's a nice little way to show your support for me there. But anyway, my brother is responsible for this and the maps and the 3 million other stickers I had him make because I am just a nut for anything semi-medieval here. So anyway, I might have gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but so with these maps here, right, they started off as just a few dots on a sheet of graph paper as I was writing Godfrey's Crusade, right? There wasn't a whole lot of traveling in between a lot of places in Godfrey's homeland, the Kingdom of Lothlorien, so I didn't feel like I needed to make an initial map of that for a little bit. But there is a lot of traveling around the Kingdom of Asgard, specifically, Kingdom of Asgard here, right? So some of these names might sound familiar to you guys who have read the books, the Duchy of Pavik, the Northern Marches, Pskov, right? There's a lot of places here, Vindholm, Kalskany, Bjorken, right? There's a lot of places on this map that the characters are going to and from, and I needed to know exactly how far away these places were for my narrative so that I could consistently say, okay, it takes this long to travel to here and this long to travel to there, and I needed a quick visual reference for that, and so I initially I put the dots on this sheet of graph paper. There's since been a little bit of a water spill on there, so you might not be able to see the square little grid on here nearly as well as we used to. But yeah, this is the original map of the Northland, and all I would do with it is I would just go from dot to dot and count how many squares were in between and say, okay, each of these squares is roughly 20 miles, and so that's about how far an army could march in a day on average, right? There's going to be a little bit of variance there. Some armies will be able to go a little faster, some maybe a little slower. Terrain also factors in here, but roughly speaking, 20 miles is about what an army can march in a day here. And so I would simply count up how many squares were in between each of these dots and say, okay, that's how many days it will take to get from here to there to there to there. And it was a very useful tool. And when I was getting ready to publish Godfrey's Crusade, I told my brother Chris about this, and he was really excited to hear that I was publishing a book at all. And one of the first questions I remember him asking me is, do you have a map? And I had to say no, right? Because as much as this was a useful thing here, it wasn't something ready to be published in a book, right? Graphic design and really most things with computers has not been my strong point for most of my life here. But my brother Chris really was and is a good, solid graphic artist here, right? And so he and we sat down for a long time, and we got all the details down on this map here. And it looks incredible. At least I think so. Maybe some of you might disagree, but I at least am fairly proud of this here. I know, and I keep telling my brother Chris just how grateful I am that he has done this for me. And yeah, so we hashed out the details, right? We sat on a number of calls over Discord where we like played around with like the coastline and the exact placement of some of these features here. And it turned out really, really well. And it took a lot of effort to get all this on here, as I've previously explained. One detail that I forgot about how long this took is each of these mountains had to be individually brushed in, if that's the right term for it. Like I said, I'm not the Photoshop expert here, but like I said, my brother did this on Photoshop here, and he had to erase little bits and add little bits, and it took a long time to get this right. And the whole time he was stuck isn't really the right word, right? But he was working on these mountains in particular for a long, long time, and I couldn't help but think of, I guess I'm on kind of a Lord of the Rings kick today, right? Or a Tolkien kick, more specifically there. And as my brother is brushing on these mountains, I kept on like humming and singing that little song that they do in The Hobbit, right? Let's see, how does that go? Now that I'm on camera, I don't remember how it goes. Far over the misty mountains cold. Yeah, you guys know the song. I won't sing the whole thing for you this time, because maybe I'll sing it for you later. But anyway, so it was a lot of fun putting this together, and it took an incredibly long amount of time, right? My brother, he's just volunteer, right? Not getting paid for it, just doing it out of the goodness of his heart. And yeah, so anyway, the maps are up, and even though this particular map, the Kingdom of Lord of the Rain, did not make it into the first edition of Godfrey's Crusade, I did hear from a few fans that that they got a little bit confused while reading Godfrey's Crusade, right? Because they've got this map, and they can see where the crusade is going to, but in the first few chapters, we're not there yet, right? The first few chapters, we're still over here, and some fans were questioning, like, where are these places, right? Where is Voss? Where is Harv? They're not on the map in the book, right? And so in future editions, and I hope to get this in very soon, but in future editions of Godfrey's Crusade, this map will be in there so that readers will be a little bit less confused, right? So we'll have both here and there in the next edition of Godfrey's Crusade, as soon as we can get all the files uploaded and do a few other minor edits that need to be done. But yeah, so that'll be something good going forward. For those of you who already have a copy of Godfrey's Crusade and you say, oh man, I don't want to buy another copy, right? I already invested money in that. If you don't want to do that, the maps will all be posted on my author website here soon. So if you don't want to buy another copy of Godfrey's Crusade, but you do want the map, that will be accessible on my author's website. Or just send me an email on my author's website on thegriffinlegends.com, and I'd be more than happy to just send you the file. So anyway, that wraps up. Oh, one more thing before I wrap up, sorry. Some of you may be a little bit curious about how these maps line up here. So you might notice that we have the freezing sea right here, right? This is the stretch of water that Godfrey needs to go from about here on up to get to the Norselands. So that would put us, it would line up our maps roughly like this, right? So this is about how these two will line up. And when we make some more maps, because eventually there will be more maps to add here, when we get another map of to the south, we will have this kingdom, Navagorn. This is part of the Eberlands, right? So this is going to be its own map at some point in the future. Can't guarantee when, but we'll have another map to put over here. I've got some more distant islands. Some of you might remember the character Torkel of Cumbria from Godfrey's Crusade. He lives on some more distant islands that are kind of more over in this direction over here. And so there's more to add to these maps. And there's a whole other continent that I don't have yet called the Sudlands. And so eventually, I guess what I'm trying to get to is eventually all of these will be put together on one big world map here that is probably going to be a lot farther down the road. But for now, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, right? All these little things we got to do to try to beat the YouTube algorithm, get us noticed on with this little channel here. And since it is Thanksgiving Day tomorrow at the time of filming here, I want to wish all of you who celebrate that holiday a happy Thanksgiving, and we will catch you next time.